The morning everything happened started with a sound that didn't belong on my ranch. At first, I thought it was construction equipment somewhere in the distance. Then, the noise got louder. Engines. Multiple engines. I stepped onto my porch and froze. A convoy of trucks was rolling through my front pasture, kicking up clouds of dust as they headed straight toward my barn. None of the vehicles belonged to me. None had permission to be there. As they got closer, I noticed several people wearing jackets with HOA logos on them. They weren't stopping at the gate, they weren't calling ahead. They were driving deeper onto private property like they owned the place. My heart sank when I realized they were heading toward an area of the ranch worth millions of dollars. What shocked me even more was that HOA Karen was riding in the lead vehicle with a smile on her face. She looked completely confident, as if whatever she was about to do had already been approved. What she didn't know was that every inch of that ranch was protected by cameras, property records, and one very expensive mistake she was about to make. I grabbed my shotgun before heading outside, not because I intended to use it, but because I was alone on a remote ranch facing a group of unexpected trespassers. The moment Karen saw me walking toward the vehicles, her confidence changed. The truck slowed. Several people exchanged nervous looks. I kept the shotgun pointed safely toward the ground and demanded to know why they were on my property. Karen immediately launched into a speech about HOA expansion plans and claimed they were conducting an inspection connected to a future community project. There was just one problem. The HOA had no authority on my land. None when I asked for permits, authorization documents, or legal notices. Nobody could produce a single piece of paperwork. Instead, Karen insisted that everything would be sorted out later and ordered her team to continue moving forward. Standing there in the middle of my pasture, I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. They genuinely believed they could enter my ranch first and worry about permission later. The situation became even stranger when one of the workers accidentally revealed a set of survey maps. I asked to see them, but Karen quickly tried to pull them away. That reaction told me everything I needed to know. The maps appeared to show proposed roads, utility lines, and development zones stretching directly across portions of my ranch, yet nobody had ever contacted me about selling land or granting access rights. The more questions I asked, the more uncomfortable everyone became. Several workers quietly returned to their trucks. Others avoided eye contact entirely. Even they seemed to realize something wasn't right. Meanwhile, Karen continued insisting the project was moving forward, no matter what I thought. Her confidence would have been impressive if it weren't based on assumptions that were about to fall apart. After the vehicles finally left, I reviewed security footage and contacted my attorney. What we discovered over the next few days was shocking. Internal documents suggested the HOA had already spent significant money planning an expansion that depended on access through my ranch. There was just one problem. No one had secured the legal rights needed to make it happen. Instead of solving that issue, Karen apparently believed she could pressure me into cooperating after the fact. By ZTY the time the first legal letters were sent, surveyors were reviewing boundaries. County officials were examining records, and evidence was piling up quickly. Karen thought showing up with a convoy of trucks would intimidate me into compliance. She had no idea that her visit had created a paper trail that would soon put the entire project in serious jeopardy. The legal battle began much faster than Karen expected. Within days, county officials confirmed that the HOA had no authority to conduct inspections, surveys, or development activities on my ranch. The security footage became a major problem for her. Every vehicle entering the property had been recorded. Every conversation had been captured. Every warning I gave was documented. When attorneys reviewed the footage, one detail immediately stood out. Karen wasn't confused about where she was. She knew she was on private property. She simply believed she could force the issue and deal with the consequences later. Unfortunately for her, that strategy only works when the property owner stays quiet. As more documents surfaced, the situation became even worse. Internal HOA emails revealed that several board members had warned Karen not to move forward until access rights were secured. Those warnings were ignored. Instead, planning continued. Engineering firms were hired, development proposals were drafted, money was spent. Residents were told expansion was practically guaranteed. The entire project was being promoted as if approval were just a formality. What nobody told the homeowners was that the project depended almost entirely on crossing land the HOA did not own. Once that information became public, residents started asking difficult questions. The turning point came during a county hearing. Karen arrived with attorneys, consultants, and several HOA representatives. I arrived with property records, survey maps, security footage, and experts who had spent weeks reviewing the situation. One by one, the facts were presented, property boundaries were displayed, legal records were examined, video footage showed the convoy entering the ranch without permission. The more evidence appeared, the quieter Karen became. By the end of the hearing, officials concluded that the HOA had no legal basis for entering the ranch and no legal pathway for the planned expansion. The financial consequences hit almost immediately. Engineering contracts had to be canceled. Survey work became worthless. Development plans had to be abandoned. Consulting fees continued piling up. Homeowners demanded explanations about how so much money had been spent before securing legal access. Community meetings became chaotic. Residents who had been promised new amenities were furious. Some blamed Karen for rushing the project. Others wanted independent investigations into how decisions had been made. What was supposed to be a major achievement for the HOA was turning into one of the biggest failures in its history. Then came the Saturday moment Karen feared most. The HOA board commissioned an outside review. The report was devastating. It concluded that repeated warnings had been ignored, assumptions had replaced proper legal review, and critical decisions had been made without securing necessary property rights. The findings spread quickly throughout the community. Homeowners who had trusted Karen's leadership suddenly had serious doubts. As pressure increased, several board members distanced themselves from the project. Public support disappeared. Questions kept coming. Who approved the spending? Why were legal concerns ignored? Why did HOA representatives enter private property without permission? Why was the expansion announced before access rights were secured? No one had good answers. Eventually, the project was formally terminated. Years of planning vanished. Millions in potential development value disappeared. The grand expansion Karen had promised residents never happened. As for the day the convoy entered my ranch, people often ask whether grabbing the shotgun caused them to leave. The truth is simple. It wasn't the shotgun. It was the realization that they were standing on private property without permission. The shotgun stayed pointed safely at the ground the entire time. What really changed the situation was knowing there were cameras recording everything and evidence proving exactly what had happened. Karen believed she could arrive first and sort out the details later. She believed confidence could replace ownership. She believed the ranch owner would back down. Instead, her visit created the evidence that stopped the entire project. And in the end, the trucks that rolled confidently onto my ranch left behind something far more damaging than tire tracks. They left behind proof. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. We upload new stories every day, and your support helps the channel grow. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next story.